Hey there, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Johnny B here with devslopes.com, and we are going to do some cool stuff in this video. We are going to work on our heads-up display. Alright, so you know in games when you have a little health bar down at the bottom and maybe some other information, that's what we're going to work on right now, alright? So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to click here where it says 2D, alright? And that shows us this very different view, okay? So what we need to do is create a new canvas. So we're going to be working with the user interface portion of the Unity game objects. So we're going to come down here to UI, and we are going to select a canvas. And we are going to rename it HUD. Okay, and so if you look in your HUD, you'll see that we got a few new different objects. We have canvas, and we can say what type of render mode. We can have screen space overlay or screen space on the camera or world space. We're just going to keep at screen space overlay. And with the HUD selected, if I hover over in the scene and press F, you'll see that we zoom out to the size of our heads-up display. And so you may be wondering, why is this so huge? You know, we have our level that's way down here in the corner. And so what it does is it's actually mapping 1 pixel per, it's 1 unit of what you see here in the game to per pixel. And so since there are way more pixels than there are actual units in our little level, that's why it appears so huge, all right? But don't worry about that. You'll see how it works out. And so what we're gonna do is here, we're going to just go ahead and under HUD, we're gonna click and say create empty game object, and this is going to be our health bar. So go ahead and name that health bar. And first off, let's do a little bit more modification here in the HUD. What we need to do is we need to add a component, and that's going to be the canvas group. Okay, and we need to do a couple of things here. We don't want it to be interactable. We're not going to have any buttons or anything that sets any action, so we don't want it to be interactable, and we don't want it to block our raycasts. Okay, so with those two things deselected, we're going to save it and then come back down here to our health bar. So we created a health bar game object, and you can see in the working with the UI, we have, instead of our regular transform, we have a rect transform by default. And so we have our position, X, Y, and Z, we have our width and our height, and we also have anchors and our pivot, okay? So, as well as rotation and scale, obviously. So with our UI game objects, what we can do here is we can click here, and this allows us to set our anchor and our position. And so just want to show you, so right here, for instance, if I click on this, you'll see that this anchor right here, this little X, is going to switch over to the left side of our canvas. If I pick this one, it's going to be up here centered in the middle. If I do this one, it's centered right in the middle, and so on and so forth. And we can also set our position. So you'll see here, Shift sets the pivot and Alt sets the position. And so if I hold Alt and I pick this one, then our anchor and our object is going to swap over here to the middle. And if I pick this one down here, it's going to be down here in the middle. And that's actually close to where we want it. We were going to have a picture of a heart, and then we're going to have our health meter right down here, okay? So that works out fine for us for now. And then with our health bar selected, go ahead and create another empty object. And this is going to be our heart. So go ahead and call that heart. And we can add a component, and we're going to add an image. Okay. And so it's going to default to white. And if you look here in our camera view, now you can see how things are going to start looking when we add them. And so with our image, with our heart selected, let's go ahead and give it an anchor and a position. So this is relative to the game object that it is inside of. All right, so when we say, when we set this one, for instance, it's going to be at the top middle of the parent health bar game object. If we select over here, then it's going to be over here. If we select here to the right, it's going to be to the right and centered vertically of the health bar. So we want it over here, and then I'm going to use our position here to actually just move it about 100 or so from the side of the wall, or from the side of our canvas, I should say. Let's make that 120. All right, that looks good. And then for our component, what we're going to need is we're going to need an asset. So in our assets folder, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this images. And I'm going to open up our folder that contains our assets. Okay, so right here under HUD, we have a game heart. So I'm going to drag that into images. Perfect. And then I'm going to come back here to our heart. And for our image, I'm going to select the source image, which is looking for a sprite. And you'll notice that nothing pops up. So what we got to do is we got to come down to our image and open up our images folder, select our game heart, and set the texture type to sprite, 2D and UI. All right, and press apply. And that fixes that error. So come back here to the HUD, select our heart image, and for the source image, use the circle select and choose our game heart. And now, if you checked out here in our camera view, we now have a little heart down here in the corner. And if we play our game, then sure enough, that little heart is down here in the corner and moves around with our game. So that is pretty cool. So I'm gonna stop, and it's a little bit small. So let's go ahead and boost its size. Let's say maybe 150 by 150. And I think that looks good. And now we want to add our health bar. Okay, so for our health meter, we're actually just going to use one of the built-in UI elements, and we are going to use the slider for that. Okay, so we got it added, and may not look super cool right now, but we're gonna modify that and make it look a little bit better. So open up the slider, and we have background, fill area, and handle slide area. We don't need the handle slide area, since it's not interactive and we don't need to have that little pointer. Just go ahead and right click on it and delete it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and make it a little bit bigger. So with the slider selected, I'm going to set the height to maybe 60 and the width to, let's try 400. That looks pretty good. I'm gonna move it over here, and I'm gonna set the pivot to the far left of the HUD game object, just like the heart. And then we're going to adjust the position a little bit more here to, I think maybe 400, maybe 450. I think that looks good. And let's make it a little bit thicker still. So I'm going to change the height to maybe 100. I think that looks good. All right, so now let's check out our fill area. Let's look at the fill, and we're gonna choose a new color. We're gonna make it a red for our health. That looks good. And then you'll see here, down here, when it's at 0, it still has a little bit of red in it, and we want it to be completely empty when we die. So let's modify that a little bit. So what we gotta do is, here in the slider, we have the minimum value and the maximum value. Our maximum value we want to be 100, and our minimum value to be 0. So with the value still set at 0, go ahead and come back into here in the fill and set the width to 0. And then in the fill area, set the left to 0 and the right to 0. Then we can check that that works out, coming back up here into the slider and adjusting our value from 0 to 100. Hey, and there we go. Completely fills up our health slider. So now what do we need to do? We need to have a way of hooking up our health slider to our player health script, okay? So that's easy enough to do. All we gotta do is, first let's set this value to 100 so that it's full. And what we're going to do is open up our player health script. Scripts, player health. I'm just going to drag you over here. And we need a reference to our player health slider. So we're going to say serialize field, and we're going to say of type slider, and I'm going to call that health slider. And you'll see that it automatically imported using Unity Engine.ui. And then we, just to make sure that we have added a health slider to our script slot, we're going to use void awake, and we are going to say assert dot is not null, and we want to make sure that we have a health slider. Okay, and just to make sure that also added Unity Engine.assertions. I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to come down here, and so every time we take a hit, what we want to do is set our, after we deduct our current health, we want to then set the health slider dot value equal to the new current health. And that is all it takes. So let's go ahead and come on over to our Unity editor, and let's switch back to our 3D version, and I'm going to select our hero and press F, and here we are. And I think, let's see here, I think I currently had starting health at 20, so I'm going to put that back up to 100 here in the serialized field in the player health script. And then let's maximize it on play and play. All right, awesome. So now when we get hit, we should be able to see our health deduct. And it's not working because you can see down here, object reference not set to an instance of an object. And so that's our awake dot, or that's our assert dot is not null kicking in because I forgot to set it. So we are going to select our hero, find our player health script, and we need our reference to the health slider. So that's here in the HUD under the health bar, and we're going to grab our slider and drag it in. All right, there we go. Now let's save and play that again. Oh, there we go. It just got hit. Got hit again. Our health is reducing. Keep getting hit, and got hit there. So cool. It's definitely working. Every time we get hit, we are getting our health reduced. And one thing I'm seeing that I don't really like is that it's actually kind of hard to be hit by the tanker. You got to be right in the right spot to be hit by the tanker. I think his colliders might just be a little bit too small to make the gameplay seem realistic. We know that the box colliders are very actually close to the approximation for his hammer, but it just looks a little bit difficult. So let's actually just make his colliders a little bit bigger real quick. So I'm going to come down here in our scene with our tinker selected. I'm going to expand his hierarchy, come down here to left hammer, and I think let's make his hammers wider. All right, so let's increase his Y to maybe 1. So it's kind of hard to tell, but that just increased the Y area so that when he smashes, he'll hit a wider area. And let's try that on the right hammer as well. Change the Y to 1, and let's give that a go. See how that feels. Okay, so over here. All right, hit me. All right, that looks. I think that's better. And then the soldier is working out well. Our health is being reduced each time we get struck, and when we die, when we run out of health, our health bar is completely empty and we fall over dead. All right, so that is coming along nicely. That's how you work with the UI elements in Unity. And oh, there we go, dead. Our health bar is completely empty. So it looks like everything's working out real nice. So So this is Johnny B with DevSlopes.com signing off. We'll see you in the next one.